Hi and welcome to this edition of Out of the Box. My name's Paul. Today I'm really excited. We're going to be having a look at what is in this box. This is the brand new XGS series. The model I've got today is the Sophos XGS 136. It's the non-wireless, but everything about it is exactly the same as the wireless. The wireless will just have 3 extra paddles, which I'll show you where those fit in a moment. Not really going to give you a massive technical overview. But I will show you what's in the box and show you and talk to you about where it might fit in your network. So, firstly, the unit itself. We'll have a look at that in a moment. You are going to get the Get Started guide. Is actually useful. It has all about your appliance in there, which network ports do what and what speeds they run at, how to access your unit to configure it. So do keep that. You will have your safety regulations manual, which you'll probably never read, but it's there in the box as well. Okay, so this unit is a small desktop form factor, and as a result, you can mount it on a shelf or on a desktop or whatever, so you get 4 feet to fit on that. You are going to get probably about a 1.5 meter long Ethernet cable and about the same length here of a USB to micro USB COM port cable. You can do out of bounds management with the Sophos on this console cable. You will in the lid get this, a QR code that we will link you to further help on Sophos's website, along with the URL that you need to connect to in your web browser to make the initial configuration for your device. You are going to get a power cable. We are in Australia, so this has got our Australian power connector 3-pin on that end. It is an IEC on that end. Then you are going to get one of the biggest power packs I have seen for a desktop model. Let me just put this into perspective for you. It is almost the entire depth of the unit. Now, I will let Sophos off because the unit does provide PoE, the model I've got as well. But if you've been used to the previous ones that are just either a small built-in device, this will be quite a shock, especially if you're going to fit it on a rack tray. All right, is got IEC on that side, you can see, and here's the connector. Now, I often forget to do this in the video, so let me show you. It has got a screw fit connector, which is great on these type of desktop models. So if we would take the unit and to plug it in, we can screw it in, and once it's in place, it's firmly in there. It's not actually going anywhere. And as a result, we can obviously mount this on a shelf and be able to pull it forward without the likelihood of the power cable coming out. All right, so those are all the main components that are in the box. Let me just pop this power pack down and out of the way. All right, let's talk about the unit itself. So here's the unit. Let me show you the front first. On this side, we've got our micro USB COM port that we're going to use for our console connections. We've got a USB for various other options that you can plug in through USB. Now then, just on this side, we haven't really got a lot other than all our light indicators, our speed, whether there's connectivity to the Ethernet port. We've also got 2 power indicators because this can take 2 power supplies, and we have our hard disk indicator as well because this has an inbuilt storage device. So reporting and logs and everything are kept actually on the device, which is fantastically useful to pull stuff back. A lot of other vendors don't have that on their firewalls at the moment. So this is an all-in-one appliance for you. All right, let me just turn that around. So this is side vented. All right, so you can see this. If you're going to mount this in a rack, do make sure you've got enough air travel around it to be able to cool it. Obviously, there's no vents at the front to draw in. It's going to be only venting out of the sides. All right, now let me lift this up because it should focus okay on the camera for you. So let me bring this up here and we can go through the ports that we've got. So on this side, like I said, we have 2 power inputs. Now do remember, if you're going to have both of those and you're going to try and fit it on the rack, you're also going to need to stash 2 of these power packs as well, which is going to be a little bit tight. Certainly if you're going to have a rack mount, you want to bring the cables to the front. All right, but it does support that bit of redundancy, so it is worthwhile maybe considering that. All right, so we then go, just reminding myself, we then go to a USB port at the bottom here. and then another standard size COM port over this side. Now, I will give you a little bit of an aside. If you've seen my reviews of the SG and the XG series, I've always referred to these as basically mini computers. Up until this XGS series, they would actually have an HDMI output as well. So you'd get 2 USBs and an HDMI. So if you connected a keyboard, monitor and mouse, essentially you could do everything on your device you needed to. You'd certainly better use it to get out of jail because you've forgotten the password and you needed to change an IP address. We're going to be doing that by console now, so just bear that in mind. Make sure you keep hold of the console cable because it will come in useful. All right, so next along the line that we have here, a tiny power switch. Often gets me caught out if you manage to catch that, and the power is off. We're then going to get 2 1 gig SFP ports. So obviously we could put another RJ45 transceiver in there, or a single mode, or a multi-mode fiber. And we have tested, and for instance the Ubiquiti U-Fiber modules will work in there, so you don't necessarily need to buy expensive vendor transceivers, but it is only 1 gig. There are some options. Sophos do a VDSL modem in a SFP port, so that's really fantastic. If you've got an NBN connection that comes in over a copper pair, then you can bring that here. We've also tested this with the ProSend PS180-T VDSL modem as well. So again, if you're looking for connectivity actually onto the box, that's a great option. All right, so we then carry on here with 10 1 gig Ethernet ports, 8 and a gap and 2, which looks a little bit strange, but don't worry. The reason there is this gap is, like I said, this is the non-wireless model. But if this was the wireless model, we would have an antenna here, an antenna right in the middle of these two, an antenna over this side as well. So the gap in the ports there is literally for that reason, to be able to have the antenna in place. So like I said, we've got 10 1 gig Ethernet ports. You've got a LAN and a WAN, obviously. All of the other ports can be multi-purpose. So we could end up with multiple WAN ports if we want to do SD-WAN and we want to do some sort of failover. We could have multiple LAN ports and we could create them into basically a switch that was bridged. Or maybe we've got a DMZ, or we want to have multiple LANs in different subnets. You can do that as well. And the unit does support VLANs. So really versatile. All right, then we move on to our last 2 ports at this end here. All right, both of these are PoE ports. So they support PoE+, but they also support 2.5 gigabits a second of Ethernet. So as we move into these Wave 2 devices, higher throughput devices with Wireless 6, obviously we start to technically push over the throughput that we can get in the 5 gigahertz band, and we can get above 1 gigabit a second. It's a bit crazy if all you have is your access point limited to 1 gig. So like I said, this has 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports that you can make use of as well, or you can have PoE power through them as an option. Then we move on to this module bay at the end. This is a multi-purpose module bay. Now, for most of these desktop units, they are a single band Wi-Fi if you get the wireless model. So they will do the 2.5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz. You can have a second wireless module put in here, and then that will allow it, has 2 extra paddles, and it will allow it to then operate on the other frequency. There is also a 4G, 3G module that plugs in here with external paddles, and again, bring failover to this. So technically you could have a Ethernet connection providing internet connectivity, a VDSL and a 4G, and have a 3-way setup here that could balance across all of them. So super versatile. Now, this model is what's being called the Extreme. It has 2 chips in it, 2 processors, so the throughput should be much faster. Like I said, this is the XGS 136. The old XGS 136 would sit around about that 500, 600 megasecond. Do check out some of our performance reviews that we've done on this. We've seen this without services running on this, comfortably delivering around about 900 meg, dropping down to the early to mid 800s when we've got security services turned on. So a fantastic device. I'd probably use this on a high-speed connection where I've maybe got less than 25 users, or on a connection where I'm expecting to increase it over the next few years. So let me just show you the front of the unit there. Remind you about the side cooling here. Hold that up so you can get a good look at all the different ports that are on that. And like I said, this is the XGS, the Sophos XGS 136. Hey, look over on our YouTube channel. We have loads of other box openings. We have plenty of videos on how to secure your Sophos, how the devices perform. So please do subscribe and stay up to date. But hopefully that's been useful. My name's Paul.